Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. We've got some folks still coming on. So I was giving people time to sign in. It's about 2 minutes after. Appreciate everybody joining us today. We've got some exciting things we want to discuss with you about marketing for not-for-profits. I'll go ahead and start kicking things off so that we make sure we have enough time to cover everything we want to cover today. Again, welcome. This is Maximizing Marketing ROI for Nonprofits, a strategic approach to efficiency and impact. We've got some great speakers on our panel today to really walk you through some of the things that can help you with your enrollment and how you can grow and bring on additional students and recruit students and what are some strategies to do that. I'd like to introduce our panelists today. I'm so excited. Got to know them a little bit as we prepared for this. So we are joined with Fernando Ramirez from One Hope and Lisa Branson from Enrollment Fuel. I'm going to have each of you, Fernando, why don't you go first and just do a brief introduction?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Fernando Ramirez. I work with One Hope, but specifically in a project we have called Missio, which has been creating new models for extending higher education in developing nations at affordable prices. And so we've been trying new things in this space, and I've been learning a whole lot over the past 8 years as we grow further access from American universities globally and trying to create better outcomes and community development in different spaces, specifically in East Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America.
Excellent. Thank you, Fernando. Lisa.
Yeah, thanks, Geraldine. I'm Lisa Branson. I'm the Vice President for Client Services at Enrollment Fuel. We are a boutique higher education marketing firm. And so really excited to be here today and looking forward to sharing some thoughts with you on this webinar. So thanks for having us.
Great. Thank you, guys. And of course, I am Geraldine Woodall. I am moderating today's session. I am from Lead Squared. Of course, we are a CRM and a student engagement platform for higher education, and we work typically with marketing and recruitment, admissions, all the way through to advancement and alumni. So I'm very happy to be here and talking with you guys today. First, we're going to cover a few housekeeping items just to get started. Of course, everybody is muted for the duration of the webinar. If you do have questions or you want to ask something, please put it in the chat. I'll try to stay on top of that. And we are going to provide a Q&A at the end. So we'll try to save up all your questions for the last 10 to 15 minutes there. If you need to change your volume for the session, please go to settings to change your audio volume and your audio device. We also would love to have your input. So we're going to do some cute polls. They'll pop up on your screen, and just type in your answer, and feel free to comment in the chat when we do our icebreaker. All right. So to get to know everybody a little bit better, particularly Lisa and Fernando, I wanted to do an icebreaker. What is your favorite vacation spot? And if you would like to say what is also on your bucket list as one that you're hoping to do very soon, I'll start off with, and those of you participating, please feel free to put it in the chat. You can put your answers in the chat. I'd love to see what your vacation spot is. And you might also give us your name and where you're from as part of your response in the chat. But I am a beach girl, and so I love anywhere that there is a beach. I live in Oklahoma and I have no water or beach around me. So that is always my go-to, right? So I'm very jealous of those of you like Lisa that live in Florida and you have easy access to the water. But really my favorite go-to spot is anything with the beach. I really want to go to Belize. It's on one of my bucket list. I'd like to go there and explore that country for sure. So Lisa, how about you?
Yeah, I guess mine might not necessarily be a place, but more of a more of kind of a mode of transportation. But we take a ton of cruises, so
Oh yeah,
so that's always nice, enjoyable. It's great because everything's taken care of for you.
yeah.
And so, you know, my family generally we used to all like try to cram into one room. I don't know if anybody has been on a cruise, but that's a pretty tight
Very
fit
tight.
for
Yeah.
4 people to be in one of those rooms. So more recently now we've started to get 2 rooms. So it's made the experience much better. We had one planned for Europe. I'm looking forward to maybe taking one of the, but we had to cancel it. But going to Europe and doing kind of one of the river cruises or doing doing something on the Mediterranean. So I've been
Oh,
to
that's awesome.
Cyprus before. I loved that. I'd like to go back. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, for Fernando, what about you?
Absolutely. Well, I'm a big foodie, so really enjoyed my time when I was in Spain. Went to San Sebastian, Bilbao, and Barcelona. Just such a
Oh
beautiful
yeah.
city. And so I definitely could do that again anytime, but also I've been very interested in going to Japan. I think that's on my list
Ooh,
of a place where I want to maybe spend
I've
a
heard
good
the
month or, a couple weeks exploring.
Yeah, I've heard the food is tremendous. Like we don't get anything like it in the States. So yeah, that would be fantastic as well. Well, any of you that are watching the webinar, please feel free to put some of your to-do list, bucket list, vacation spots in the chat. We'd be happy to see that. All right, well, we're going to get right to it. With today's not-for-profit higher education institutions, they're increasingly adopting new technology and marketing strategies to really help them recruit students in this changing landscape for higher education. So we want to drill into those today and really talk to these guys about, what are they seeing in their areas and what would they recommend. We want to start off, I want to do a poll to kind of start the participants. I want you guys to get engaged with us here. We want this to be interactive. So let me ask, what is the biggest challenge your institution faces in student recruitment and retention right now? If you'll go out there and pick one of those answers, I'd love to hear from you guys who are joining us on the call today. All right, do we have some folks answering our poll question? All right, Richard, do we have a response? All right, so we have resource constraints as the number one at 57% in managing your teams. Again, we got a kind of a tie going in there, three-way for the other three answers, really difficulty engaging across different channels, weak technology, identifying and targeting the correct audience. So yeah, all of those, but it looks like resources is our winner here. Well, that kind of ties into our first question that I would like to ask the panelist. So it kind of ties into that. So starting off, let's talk about what are the important factors today in the not-for-profit landscape to recruit students. Lisa, why don't you go first?
Yeah, sure. I think it was really telling to see what the group had to say about the fact that there are competing priorities for resources or a lack of resources, and really, I think that means monetary resources. I would bet I can probably
Right.
internally visualize in my head the folks that I can't see that are here on the webinar, and they're probably shaking their head yes, that some of it's the monetary side, but then
Right.
also just the staffing side of the house, and having people who are competent and comfortable in all the different types of media that are out there. Like, it's impossible to find someone who has that breadth of knowledge, especially at a not-for-profit institution, and one that the pay just is not necessarily there to really garner people that are that really have that kind of depth or breadth of and depth and breadth of experience there. So I thought, the hard part, though, is that when there is a lack of resources, and you're challenged in that area, really finding ways to reach out, like on social media, digital channels, and those, not that they're there to take the place of people, but to really leverage those things can help with outreach efforts when the personalized ones really aren't there. Those touch points can't be there because of a lack of staff or resources. But I have a
Right.
million and one other things to say, but I'll let Fernando kind of
Yeah.
chime in there too.
All right. Well, thanks. Thank you, Lisa. So Fernando, what are your thoughts on some of the most important factors today?
Yeah, I would agree with Lisa on a lot of that. Many times, especially on the nonprofit side, you are relying on a leaner team, but also a purpose-driven team. You have a vision, you have a mission that usually fuels your why, which is something that sometimes is missing from the for-profit institutions, from what we've seen in our experience. And so there's a bit of a drawback, but also a plus there. And so with that, what we've seen that really has been impactful with a lean team and a lean operation. One is empowering people early. So as we hire, as we bring up new employees, really allowing them to have a good amount of autonomy and creative power in how to approach a different market. And, starting with trust in that way. And then also, I think over the past, especially since 2020, we did a bit of an over-reliance on what social media and these platforms can do for us in terms of reach and actual good interactions with students. But as we do work globally, we see that one, because of their business models changing without actually spending money on ad spend, you don't get to reach your own audiences that you might have built over the past few years. But then two, you gotta look at a portfolio of strategies. And so what we have decided over the past year and a half that we found very successful is merging, there's 16 different channels, pick two that you understand well, do those well,
Okay.
and also couple them with more analog or in-person experiences, whether it's actual events with local anchor partners that you might have in a certain area that reach out about what the university or program that you have is doing, and then couple that also with the social media strategy you might have, and I would add one more. When we were doing work in East Africa, for example, and recruitment of students there for American institutions, one thing we noticed was that, yes, people are spending time on Instagram, Facebook, and others, but actually there's a huge resurgence in internet radio. And so if we did not run things through
Yeah.
internet radio in terms of that ad placement, then we were missing a whole chunk of the audience. And so once we started doing that, we also saw some pretty good response. So being creative and really looking at the data and see where are people in places that you might not expect them to be.
What about, Fernando, what about podcasts? Have you guys gotten into doing any kind of podcast? I was working with a school recently, and one thing that they were doing on social media, like on LinkedIn and on Facebook, Instagram, was they were doing some podcast. And they would highlight part of their, each topic of a podcast might be like a program that they offer at the institution. Have you guys talked about that or looked into that at all?
Yeah, so that's actually a new turn that we've taken to. So both on podcasts and also social media that leads to being able to have a little more ownership over the audience through also, I know we've had newsletters for a long time, but
Right,
newsletters that focus. So I think that the twist on this would be newsletters and podcasts that focus on something that people are actually interested to listen to on their way
mhm,
back home or on their normal day to
right,
day. No one really wants to listen to a podcast on the importance of MBAs, but they do want to listen to why are teachers staying in the classroom every day, and then being
mhm,
able to connect them, yes, in some ways, being able to market to the audience later about the programs that you offer in education, let's say in our case, Master of Education, different ways. And so really focusing on the audience and understanding if that was me, what would I actually want to spend my limited time listening to? And then connect that to some value add that you might have instead of thinking that they're going to be interested in a very direct proposal.
right. Good. Lisa, any other thoughts before we move
Yeah,
on to the next
just
one?
yeah, and this might kind of lead into other areas, but I feel like some of the challenges too that have come up more recently in the areas of social media and for like student search, some of the things that we do pretty regularly on the non-for-profit side of the house. There are a ton of privacy restrictions that are coming in every day.
Mhm,
And so, I know we're all familiar with Meta and some of their restrictions for Facebook and Instagram, and some of the ways in which we've lost the ability to target some of the audiences that we really want to target. That
right,
has been super impactful. I think that's something that's changed kind of the landscape, the marketing landscape for sure. And on the student search side of the house, where it used to be that folks in the non-for-profit and for-profit other areas too could participate with organizations like College Board or ACT and purchase kind of pretty strong lists of names, now have largely been limited to purchasing names in the senior search process. So there are just more and more privacy restrictions and limitations that really are causing some issues on the higher education side of the house, just in being able to get to the right audience and in a really competitive market, being able to show that ROI through all of the campaigns. That's something too that I think is with new people and kind of the change that COVID has had on campuses and all these new faces and new people across the country in higher education positions. There's more and more pressure from the top levels, presidents, the C-level people, to get ROI from every vendor, every opportunity that they engage in. So there's no more spending, $50,000 on something and not having anything to show for it. There's just a lot of pressure there.
right. Very good point. I think that does tie back into our poll question earlier about the resources, right? I mean, everybody's having to be very frugal and really calculated on where they're spending those dollars. There's no longer that, extra budget, like you're saying, to just be able to do things maybe the way we used to. And that kind of ties into our next question, is really how has the changing landscape of higher ed, how has not-for-profit recruitment and admissions changed over the years? And how are people leveraging technology and omni-channel engagement? So I think we've been talking about that, right? The different ways we can engage students. How about like texting, uh, apps like WhatsApp and things like that? What have you guys seen? I mean, yeah, COVID has really rocked our world and the way I mean, nothing is the same, really. We used to do things. Everything is different now. And I mean, and higher ed has had to adapt and so make those changes. So, what are you guys seeing? And Fernando, what have you been doing to really adapt now that things are so different?
So from our side, one thing we saw, especially again over the past 4 years, was just the influx because everyone went online and offering their different product services, programs. The ideal person that might be looking for that program has been flooded with so many offers, so many different competing propositions as well. And so one thing we've seen is that there's been a bit of a skepticism built as well, especially in what we've seen in Latin America and East Africa for educational programs, trying to see which one's real, which one's not, what's a scam, what's and so as you're an institution trying to reach a broader audience, what we've seen again by being able to leverage in-person events, leverage different types of communications for this. But one more thing is understanding how connected different cultures are. And so one way that an audience might be very different in the US compared to, let's say, Kenya, Uganda, or Colombia would be how much time folks in those places are spending on WhatsApp groups and how much social proof comes from those groups as well. And so if they're going to share news or they're going to share some exciting opportunity, you're going to see a lot of these WhatsApp channels actually being very, very effective at getting just really good leads compared to, let's say, just a Facebook campaign or Instagram campaign or a Google campaign. So what we see, and maybe this is the experience of many others here. If I do spend on Google, I'm gonna get the most website views. If I do it on Facebook, I'm gonna get probably some of the better leads on Instagram. Maybe even the tightest leads for us have come from that. But whenever we do some work back, we see that WhatsApp is sending us a whole lot of folks, and it's coming more from actual networks of people, actual channels of folks that have come together and are trying to find new opportunities together.
Huh, that's very interesting. I like that idea. Hadn't thought about that really. So yeah. What about you, Lisa?
Yeah, so I think there are some challenges that have developed kind of over the course of, especially in the last 2 years, I'd say, with Google and sort of being able to deliver some of the email campaigns effectively. There have been a lot of restrictions kind of placed on spam rates and changes really with Gmail and Yahoo that have been really impactful kind of in the email delivery space. And so I think just being aware of those and paying attention to those is helpful as you're kind of going through and considering campaigns that you might be running. Another thing that we've seen and something that your WhatsApp conversation there, Fernando, kind of reminded me of it. We've had a lot of success running influencer campaigns across a bunch of different media that is available out there. And I think the students now are really looking for people who are like them out there in the space and want real reviews of campuses and what's really going on. They don't necessarily subscribe to kind of some of the highly produced things that are out there. They'd rather get kind of the real deal from someone who attended the university or college. And so we run campaigns where students have posted things on TikTok, things across Instagram, Facebook, whatever platform they might be on, kind of allow the students to sort of choose. And we've seen a lot of success with the micro influencer, especially. So nano and micro influencers that you don't need to have somebody to be an effective influencer that has 3 million followers. As a matter of fact, they're not always the best people because they don't engage with their audience. You're finding somebody that has 5,000 followers or 12,000 followers or something might be perfectly acceptable, and you'll see high engagement rates and really get some boosts. Some of the campuses where we've seen that, some of the TikTok videos like life in the day of a student, things like that are super effective and some of the most viewed on the school's TikTok account. So so just giving that out there as a suggestion, but all that highly produced stuff sometimes just isn't really what people are looking for anymore.
Right. Yeah, that is definitely something that is, has changed our recruitment, right? Is all of the TikTok and the influencers these days. So that's pretty cool. Okay, I want to switch gears here a little bit. We're going to do a second poll for the audience. Let's ask Richard, let's get that poll question up here and let's get some feedback from our audience. All right, so switching gears a little bit, to what extent do you currently use automation in your recruitment efforts? So I think this can kind of address like resources, right? We want to try to work more effectively with the resources that we have. And so we can utilize tools and automation to help with that. So how much are you guys using automation and AI in your recruitment efforts? Are you using automation, but are your systems integrated with AI? And what about, are all your processes mostly manual at this point? So it'd be interesting to see what you guys say. All right, so we got 13% are starting to use automation and AI. Nice. We do have, and we have 50% are using automation, but the systems and AI are not integrated. And then we have another 38% most of them are processes are manual. So that's interesting. So we have a pretty good spread here of folks that are and are not utilizing automation and AI. So that kind of leads into question number 3 for our panel. So how are we leveraging automation and AI to build lean but effective teams? And how are you all seeing automation and AI being utilized for recruitment and retention efforts?
Well, on the non-for-profit side, I feel
Okay.
like this, and I love you all on the non-for-profit side, because I spent the majority of my career working with non-for-profit institutions, and most of our partners, our client partners, are from the non-for-profit side of the house. So I'm feeling your pain out there, but I'm not surprised by the results of the poll, because I think non-for-profit institutions traditionally have challenges leveraging things like AI and bringing in automation and processes. I think, I know y'all are budget strapped out there. I get it. I think that's part of it. And sometimes many of our institutions that are not-for-profit institutions are all over the country. So sometimes it's difficult to find the right employees or right partners to be able to kind of leverage all of that automation and AI out there. So I'm not surprised, but some of the simple things that I've seen schools do, since you are resource strapped, to be able to use something like a chat bot or something on the site. Those things were super complicated because, okay, I worked at Northern Virginia Community College for a few years. And we had worked on implementing a chatbot. Gosh, this was probably back in the mid 2000, maybe 2015, 2014. It was super cumbersome to implement that thing. Like, it was basically answering 800 questions and typing them all in, and so that all of the questions could be answered automatically. It wasn't automatic because of this chatbot, right?
Right.
And so now it's as simple as putting a little bit of code on the site, and in 5 minutes, you can have AI kind of up and running on your site. It's amazing to me the amount of work that I put into that. And now it's just putting a little snip of code. It goes out and starts reading your website and could start help answering questions for students out there. It's amazing to me how all that kind of works. Folks, I know you're resource strapped. You really need to look into some of those things, because it helps you to be able to answer questions that maybe you just couldn't get to because you don't have enough staff to do it.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lisa. Utilizing automation and AI is a really great way if you can't hire staff, because it's so difficult to get budget to hire more people, right? But if you could utilize technology to automate a bunch of that, then that is tremendous. Can do so much more, right, with what you have. Fernando, you were kind of grinning there. What are your thoughts on this topic?
No, I'm all over that, and that's true. Just understanding, yes, with nonprofit spaces, you have much leaner staff, but also, sometimes people say, well, that's a con. Well, when it comes to technology, it's actually a good thing. because in a company of 1,000 licenses is a whole lot. It's a whole decision that needs to be made at the highest level. When you have a team of 15, 20, 30 folks, even less, trying all the new products or some of the great new products that are coming that are AI, that are leveraging AI, becomes a much simpler process. And so I would encourage wherever you are, especially if you are in a smaller space when it comes to staff positions, start implementing this thought process of, okay, do I need more staff to do this work, or can I look at the abilities that AI is bringing us when it comes to image creation, campaigns for on the creative side, when it comes to the actual writing side, when it comes to, yes, chatbots and others. Do I just need better technology, and can I do a couple quick tests that are not like very expensive compared to doing a whole hire or even contracting it out? And what we've seen is the quicker we are, the more agile we are at trying the new products that are coming out almost on a bi-weekly, monthly basis, and keeping that agile mentality, that we're getting better and better at understanding, okay, where do we actually need to spend a lot more resources? So if we have an allotted budget for a new staff member, maybe we thought it was going to be on this portion of work. Actually, through this technology, we're able to automate that or do that faster with our current team, and the better investment would be over here. And so really, the game has changed through AI in terms of, it doesn't replace us. It doesn't change our work in a super crazy way. But what it does, it just extends our abilities in such an amazing way. And that's what we've seen so far, especially also as we train intercultural, transnational teams, being able to quickly get them up and running with the knowledge of the organization, of our programs, of how to speak to our prospective students, to our current students. It's made our lives just a whole lot easier since last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we've been talking about AI, gosh, probably what, 5, 6, 7 years. Yeah, when the first chatbots even came out back in, mid, 2015, 2016. I mean, that was the thing, right? Everybody was talking about it. But now, I mean, I think what's really changed for me is that now you have it in a lot of the products that you're using day to day, right? Your Microsoft pilot, right? You've got on LinkedIn, you've got somebody that, you've got your AI component. I mean, we're seeing it in Google, right? In our searches. And so I mean, starting to really, I mean, it's real now. It's coming to us, right? And then, on our cell phones, and being able to ask Siri or what, all of that stuff. And I think at first everybody was a little skeptical about, jumping right in. I know I was in the beginning, but now I can see the value and the power of that, and how it can help me in my day-to-day productivity. And so I'm excited. I mean, that is what we're doing at Lead Squared too, right? AI is coming full swing into our product, and it's so exciting to think about the things like when you're crafting an email, right? So that you can just ask ChatGPT or ask AI, right? Can you write me an email for the, I mean, oh my gosh, how much of a time saver. And then you can just go in and edit that and tweak it a little bit to be more from your voice. And you have all the key points there. I mean, oh my gosh, what a time saver. And so those are things that we're building into our product now. And so I think as schools, move forward and thinking about CRM and technology for automation and AI, and you're right, Lisa, the chatbots have come so far now with the ability to scan websites, and you can give it a database of information, a knowledge base to scan, and all the different types of chatbots now that you can employ to help in different areas. I just think it's fantastic. And so I know the IT staff on our university campus is really sweating, right? The security challenges of AI, but oh my gosh, is it not going to make our lives so much easier with all of that and how we're inundated? But I think it's so exciting to see how it's going to play out, and the possibilities of the technology that's coming, and is starting to see that in our day-to-day lives. All right, I need to keep a track on time here, so I want to make sure that we have time at the end for questions. So let's move to our next question. Kind of going to switch gears again here. And what I want to do is talk about, okay, we've been talking about technology, we've been talking about, social media and all of that. So what are some offline marketing strategies now that schools can implement? So let's talk about, if the not-for-profit schools don't have that resource budget, right, to be able to do some of this stuff that we've been talking about. What are some of the offline marketing efforts that you all are seeing in schools to help recruit, and what could they implement? How about Fernando? Why don't you go first?
Yeah. So we've been focusing mainly on this, honestly, for the past couple of years because we've seen the best result and ROI come from it. And so what we do is we have really leaned in. When everyone went online fully with all their activities, we really started going back to the partnerships that we had in different areas of the world, and again, anchors and communities. So look at wherever your target demographic is, whether that's a state, a city, wherever that is, and really see, okay, where are the people gathering in an effective way? Where are those points of strong connection? And so for some of our programs, we have strong partners. Many of our universities we work with are Christian universities. So we do work with major churches wherever the countries are. In Uganda, for example, we do one as Watoto Church, 10,000 people are there and they have 10 campuses. We'll do one Missio Sunday where we're able to explain the different programs that we have, really bring out some alumni from the community, what they're doing now and how education has transformed their lives. And, for an investment of $3,000-4,000, we can get over 2,000 inquiries or actual application, moved in one weekend, which usually would take us a much greater time and other efforts. So going back to whether it is networks that we have, whether it is actual employers and coming up with special programs for those employers to be able to offer to their employees and fast track them through education. Or again, is just getting back into the community and hosting some events, doing happy hours, doing some other coffee events. We're seeing a lot of great connection because people want to gather again. They want to
Right.
hang out, they want to meet others. And so find ways to do that effectively.
Yeah, that's a great point because I think, we were so limited there for so many years, a couple of years, right? We couldn't get around people. And I think then people were kind of going stir crazy. And so now it's like people want to get out and they want to have social interaction and they want to travel again. And so, yeah, I think that's a great way and to utilize your networks, maybe your alumni, and your partners. I mean, I think that's fantastic. Lisa, what about you at Enrollment Fuel? What are you guys seeing?
Yeah, so I put in the chat, this is where an area where I think the non-for-profit school really shines. So because you have the ability to take and leverage some of that information that you have, that comes from your CRM or other areas that you might be gathering information, and really use that to make personalized contact, touch points, and outreach to students about things that are actually interesting to them. So, like one of the things that we use is some of our matchback tool that kind of goes out and really looks at when we're delivering campaigns where students might be on the institution's website. And so by kind of taking information like that, you can really have in-depth conversations with students about things that they're interested in. So, if they're having financial aid concerns, you might be able to reach out to them about that because you've noticed that in the information that you have. And a lot of times small private institutions especially are really adept at having personalized conversations with students about things they're truly interested in, and that's why students choose to go to those institutions, because they're not a number. They have this personalized approach and develop these personalized relationships as you kind of go through the admissions process and recruitment process. And so I think just finding ways for schools to have those kind of conversations and interactions are really important. Just go back to the basics. Sometimes I think schools are trying to do some of these really sophisticated things, and like Fernando said, just being able to leverage some of that information and take it back to the basics. a phone call. Like,
Right.
really, really can do wonders. Making sure the campus visit is top notch. Focusing efforts on that. Your high school visits that you're going to when you're trying to recruit students. I think all of those things are super important and important to focus on because those personalized touches are really meaningful to students and families.
Yeah, for sure. And I have a colleague who his kids are just at the age where one went into college, I think year before last, and then one just went into college as a freshman. And he said that the factor that really that his kids made the decision of what school they wanted to go to was that personalized phone call, right? They actually talked on the phone to their admissions advisor and recruiter. And so it just really sealed the deal because they made that connection, that personal connection that I think resonates with students because they're so, it's that time of their life. Everything's changed, it's starting to change and they're kind of scared. And I mean, just having that connection with a person, right? To make them feel at ease and comfortable and excited about school and going away from home in a lot of cases, right? So they can feel more secure in that. So, all right. So I want to go ahead and we're going to go to the last question and then we'll kind of wrap up with a poll and then we can jump into some questions if anybody has some questions. So Lead Squared is an AI-enabled end-to-end enrollment platform. Would any of you like to have additional information for how you would be able to utilize Lead Squared? Just answer yes or not at the moment, and we will reach out to you. But really, talking through some of these things that we've been talking about, interesting to see if you guys would like to have some more information. And while you're doing that, I know my colleague Rishik also posted a case study in the chat for you. If any of you are interested, you can check that out. It's a case study about one of our clients, Lindenwood University. So you can see how they were able to do a lot of new things with Lead Squared. And of course, Fernando uses Lead Squared as well. All right, so last question, guys. Personalized versus intent-based marketing. What are your thoughts? Lisa, why don't go with you first?
Yeah, I mean, goodness. So I really feel like you probably what's important about kind of this whole question is again sort of where I ended the last question, which is to try to use some of the things that you are able to gather about the student really to implement that in your personalized approach. Because again, I think that's why students choose to go to the non-for-profit institution because of that personalized outreach, because of things that they do. That doesn't mean that you don't necessarily need to have a level of sophistication to be able to gather that information. So when I say it's funny because on one, I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth, right? Like I'm saying, go back to the basics, but I'm also saying leverage all of the sophisticated information in order to be able to do that more effectively, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to kind of use all the intel that you can get to be able to go back to the basics, but the basics just aren't so basic anymore. Students expect that you have a certain level of information about them, that these kind of campaigns that are just generic, they don't work. They don't work anymore. I mean, like we review this Reddit. I would suggest everyone does this, by the way, on the webinar. Go out and look at the Applying to College webinar. There are more than 1 million people, or not webinar, but the Applying to College subreddit. There are more than 1 million people kind of subscribed to that. And there's all kinds of great information out there about what students are seeing. Like there's a student said that they had in the college selection process in their senior year, more than 13,000 emails from school. So that's great. I mean, emails are one way to reach out, but leveraging the information that you're getting back from using a CRM like Lead Squared is super important so that you can take that and expand on it to have personalized outreach to those students, or to use your omni-channel approach to reach out to them in a variety of different ways. So yeah, it's back to the basics, but they're not so basic anymore, like I said.
Right. I love that. Yeah, I think you're exactly right, right? I mean, we're never going to get back to the basics the way they were the basics, right? I mean, everything is so different now. So it's like students expect different. And that's why I think, it kind of ties into our, we do microsites within our platform for really targeting. So and I talk about it like this is that Netflix experience, right? For a student where, you know, it kind of knows when you kind of give us a little bit of the information about what you're interested in and where you're at and all that, and then we can just go boom, here's all this information for you, personalized to what you're interested in. And it's kind of exciting, but yet um, something that it's really fun, and I think the students are starting to expect that, right? Because they're seeing it everywhere, and that's what they're getting used to. Fernando, what about you?
No, I love this question. I love the conversation around it. And um yeah, I'm thinking about, even the last one, going back to the basics, what does that mean? And one of them is storytelling. I think we're
Oh,
very
yeah.
captivated by stories again. When it comes to, how we create now more promotional campaigns. One thing that let's remember the value of what we've done so far already, by reaching out to our alumni, not for donations only, but to really figure out, what are you doing? How's it going? It's been 5 years, 10 years. What have you done so far? Because one thing that we have as institutions that do and offer higher learning is, we get to be part of everyone's story their whole lives. Whether or not it was super related to what they studied, whether or not it was, we get to be part of that. And so when prospective students are coming into the website, they're trying to figure out what's going on, what are these programs, what degree am I going to choose? Being able to see pretty current examples of students who have graduated even 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago, but they have built companies, they have gone through this very interesting career. It lets them know, okay, if I go to this institution, I too can have an interesting life. I can have this type of job or this type of career. And so I would say that. And then one thing that captivated me was a case study I saw of a university that, in the inquiry process, the very first information they gather from prospective students, they would ask the name of their dog, if they had a pet, or their cat. And then whenever, time was coming close to applying, they would get a mailer, these students would, with a picture of a dog or a cat, or it was sent to their dog or cat instead of that person themselves. And so just being creative and not forgetting that, you know, being cute also goes a long way. There's a weird way of gathering data and knowing that people have your data, and then there's the fun way of it, of just adding a couple touches of it that make it personalized, make sure that the institutions are taking one extra step to care about the individual before they commit to a 2 or 4 year program. But also, just keeping it creative, keeping it fun.
Yeah, I love that too, Lisa. Like you put it in the chat. So that made me think of something when you said that, Fernando, that there it was an institution, and I cannot remember the name of it, but I heard about it not long ago, a couple weeks ago. They are allowing pets on campus. And I thought, oh my God, that is awesome. I mean, can you imagine? People out with their pets playing on campus. And I just think that would be so cool. And talk about a strategy for, bringing students there, right? To be able to bring their cat or their dog or something with them. And it's just like, wow, that is so awesome. To really make them feel at home. But yeah. And Lisa, I know you're smiling. Do you have anything else that you wanted to add to that?
No, I was just thinking, I know Hanover College is one of those schools that
Oh,
does
great.
that,
And
and
maybe
they used
I
it
wish
as
I
an
could
effective
remember.
campaign.
Maybe it was that. I heard about it, and it was just amazing. I was like, oh, that is so, so cool. Um, All right, well, we have 10 minutes left, guys. This has been so fabulous. Thank you guys so much for being here. Let's open it up for questions. So, does anybody on the webinar, you've kind of been quiet in the audience. Do you guys have any questions for our panelists, for Lisa or for Fernando? Don't be shy. We'd love to hear from you. Any questions? Maybe everybody's hungry. It's lunchtime here in Oklahoma, so.
Yeah, I'm so confused about what time it is because I'm normally on East Coast time. Now I'm on.
Yeah, now you're on Pacific
I'm like,
time.
am I hungry? Am I not hungry? I don't know. I can't decide.
All right. Well, if nobody has any questions, maybe it's time to go to lunch. But I do think if you guys do think of some questions and you want to submit those, you can definitely email us. I'd love to hear from you via email. Or you can email Lisa or Fernando. We will be sending out the recording of this session today. So we can be sure if you want to request more information, we'd love to hear from you. So again, thank you, Lisa. Thank you for joining us today. And Fernando, it's been fantastic. I've enjoyed getting to know you guys. So safe travels home, Lisa, from
Oh,
California.
sure.
And
Thank you.
Fernando, good luck on your recruiting efforts. So
Yeah.
thank you guys. I appreciate
Excellent.
everybody joining. Okay,
Thank
bye.
you.